It's important not to draw too many conclusions too soon from what was said during the new ownership group's introduction to DC media and Washington fans. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
Your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into your Monday episode of Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. And don't forget that you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can continue conversations just like this one with me, your host, David Harrison, on Twitter at dharrison82 or via text by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Commanders. I'm a credential member of the media covering your Washington Commanders for Commander Country, a part of Sports Illustrated's FanNation, and I am here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers, and I appreciate all of you for joining me here and supporting the show like you do. On today's episode of Locked On Commanders, we're going to discuss the secondary group preview before training camp gets started for us on Wednesday, and we'll talk about impressions made in our first meeting with the new ownership group. But before we get there, I do have to tell you that this episode is sponsored by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. A lot of words were said on Friday, but there wasn't really much in the way of definitive answers given, and that's why it's going to be important not to get too spun up about anything the new owner said to media and fans on Friday. So going over the introductory press conference and pep rally highlights, Locked On Commanders, we were on ground Friday at FedEx Field at the stadium to meet the new ownership group, participate in the press conference, and then afterwards made our way over to the pep rally. I got to meet more than a few of Locked On Commanders listeners and viewers, so I greatly appreciate all of you who came up to me and said hi, or even just kind of in passing mentioned that you listened to the program. Greatly appreciate all of you. Hope you had a really great time at FedEx. It was really encouraging to see all of the people at FedEx. I actually sent a text to my subtexters while I was there, and I said, guys, this place is packed, and it's really, really encouraging because, of course, we all remember last year during training camp, some of the photographs that made the rounds on social media of Ashburn and the practice field, not looking all that too impressively full. You know what I mean? So we're hoping that with the bleachers coming in, with the Commanders busing people in from Dulles Square, that maybe there will be more of a presence. And of course, I will share some more information on that in our mailbag episode. Got a question from a Commanders fan kind of wondering how fans can get to training camp practices and all that stuff. So I'll go over as much of that as I can, as much information on that as I do have. But today, we're going to stick with the press conference, stick with the pep rally. I've got Terry McLaurin and John Allen coming up here in a minute. But let's talk about the biggest topic that a lot of people are talking about since the ownership change, and that is the name change potentially happening. Now, Magic Johnson was asked about the name change during an interview he did on the Today Show before the introductory presser actually came out the same day as the owners voted to unanimously pass the approval to sell the team. And during that interview on the Today Show, Magic said, quote, "I think everything's on the table, especially after this year. We'll see where we are with the name, but I can't say that right now. We're going to spend this year understanding what we have in place, and then I'm sure that'll come up. The Commanders, the name of the team, will come up eventually, but right now we got enough work to do that will keep us busy." End quote. Now, a lot of people ran with that, and what they really took away was, I think everything's on the table, especially after this year. That's it. They cut it off right there and said, boom. After the season, the Commanders are going to consider changing the name. What they also did is discounted the rest of what Magic said, which is, I'm sure it'll come up, but we've got plenty of things on the table. We've got plenty of things to talk about that are going to keep us busy. Basically, what I took away from Magic Johnson's comments was it was a more intelligent, fancier way of saying, I can't confirm that, but I also can't deny it. That's essentially what that boils down to. Now, doesn't mean the team won't change the name. No, it doesn't mean they won't change the name. It just also doesn't mean that they're going to change the name, or that they're even going to seriously consider changing the name. It just means they will have that conversation at some point in time. But what I don't want, but what I wouldn't prefer, what I wouldn't like to see is a bunch of Commanders fans, especially Locked On Commanders listeners and viewers, get super excited, start, saying, it's coming. It's going to come. Like we kind of said, the sale of the team was going to come. And when we started saying that, there was reason to believe that it was actually going to happen. Right now, because of the comments that are being made, is it possible that the name gets changed? Absolutely. Is there a reason to believe it will get changed? I don't think we're there yet. So I would just like to temper expectations of that because I don't want to see you guys get either hurt or angry, right? Because sometimes we read between the lines and we turn that into expectation, and then it turns into, well, they led us to believe the name would be changed. But in actuality, that's not what Magic said on the Today Show. Josh Harris, of course, when he got his chance to speak to the media on Friday, to the local media on Friday, he did meet with media in Minnesota after the sale or after the vote was approved. He did get asked, of course, about the name change again. And here's what he said. He said, quote, "We've got to get the team ready to win football games. We've got to get out in the community and start to pay it forward. And we've got to change the stadium, right? And change the fan experience. We've got to change the fan experience. And right now, that's got to be things like ingress and egress and food. So our 3 priorities are those. And that's what we're focused on right now," end quote. So again, Josh Harris, non-committal, not even, honestly, he didn't even go as far as Magic did, where he said, someday we'll talk about it. He just said, we've got a lot of other things to worry about before the name change. And that includes the stadium experience, the fan experience, fan engagement. I think it should be exciting that he says ingress and egress, because you know what? There's only so much they can do, honestly, with FedEx Field. It kind of is where it is. The infrastructure kind of is what it is. But when you talk about developing a new stadium, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, the fact that your new owner already is acknowledging we need to talk about ingress, we need to talk about egress, we need to talk about food, the food presence of FedEx Field or of the stadium. We need to talk about the fan experience. All these things shows you that what he has in mind is for your enjoyment. And when you're on the grounds, he wants to make sure that you are taken care of. So basically, it's like asking our parents for a PS6, you're right, when it's coming out, and they said maybe we'll get it for you. It's not a yes, it's not a no. Could happen. I just wouldn't go, buying all your PS6 games just yet. So that's kind of the whole thing about the name change. Of course, it's going to come up again. Probably not during the season, right? I don't think it's going to come up a lot during the season, but after the season, certainly it'll probably come up again. And if they do a postseason, some owners do a postseason press conference, some owners don't. But if this one does, which I feel like they probably will, I'm sure it'll come up again. Or if they do some town halls, right? Some owners will do town hall meetings with fans. And if they do that, then, I'm sure you guys will ask them about it again, which is fair. But for right now, the answers that we're getting are just very, very non-committal. The good news is they're non-committal either way. Like, they're not saying no, they're just not saying yes. So I just wanted to put that out there, make sure that we're tempering our expectations for now. If we get words on the wind that it's really going to move forward, just again, when people say this means that they're going to do it, make sure you go in, make sure you look for the full quote, or come to guys like me, because that's kind of my job. I find the full quote for you, and I make sure that we talk about it in its totality. Don't just take a sentence and run with it, right? So speaking of the new stadium, Josh Harris, of course, asked about the new stadium. He said, quote, "When you have guests in your house, you treat them well. You don't have couches that are broken. You don't have TVs that aren't working. So we've got to get after all that. And that's what we're focused on right now. As far as the stadium experience, long run, we would love to have a stadium where the opposing players fear to come and our fans love to come and our players love to come and feel welcome. That's what I experienced at RFK. And whatever happens with the stadium, that's the kind of stadium experience I want to create. So no broken couches, which means good seats, not just good seats when you're sitting, but Josh, good seats above. Let's not have water falling on people, right? Broken TVs. They're already upgrading the video screens at FedEx, but of course, you can expect the new stadium. Look, new stadiums these days, they always have the highest and the newest tech and all that stuff. Who knows? By then, we might have 3D video boards that you can have, and you can have like John Allen coming out at you from the 50-yard line while you're sitting in your stadium seat, comfortable and eating your nachos or whatever. Also talked about things like food concessions earlier. I think that's huge. I can tell you already, I don't know if it's a sign of things to come for the future, but the press box food on Friday, better than I've had the entire time I've been to FedEx before. So if that's a sign of things to come, then it's a good sign of things to come. Terry McLaurin, John Allen met with fans at the pep rally after the press conference. So I've got a clip of that I want to share with you guys. I'm going to do that here in just a minute. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'm going to share that with you thanks to our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs, because today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Once you get your job posted, throw the purple hashtag hiring frame on your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or view of the day every day. Or thanks for coming back. We've got a brand new mailbag dropping on Tuesday, one day before I will be out at Ashburn, attending the first training camp practice open to the media. So if you want to throw in your submission, a question for before training camp, do that in the YouTube comments, on Twitter, email, or send them to me directly via text by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. And while you're at it, please throw a like down on this video so that other Commanders fans will get access to it just like you did. So we're going to get to the secondary training camp preview here in just a moment. But before we do that, I do want to share some comments from Terry McLaurin and John Allen when they met with fans at the pep rally following the ownership introduction press conference on Friday.
Awesome. All right, so Terry, people are excited to see you, right? New offensive coordinator here. How you feeling about that new addition to the team?
Man, I'm feeling really excited. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out here. We really appreciate it. It's a great day to be a Commander, man. It's a great day to be a fan of Washington. I just got to meet with the new ownership group, and you guys should be excited for the future here. So it starts on Tuesday, man, and we're excited to go. So we got EB, we got some great additions, and we're ready.
First of all, I'm ashamed of y'all. You know why y'all love Terry? Because he played offense. Well, you know what? Offense sell tickets, but defense win championship. We don't get anything to draw now.
So, John, how you feeling, man? You just met with the new owner. You're at the press conference. How'd that go? Press conference went well?
It went good. I can honestly say I waited 7 years to see the fan base like this.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
I don't think people understand how serious this community and this fan base is about football.
Yeah.
People really don't know, but I really think this year we're going to really show the world something this year, so I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, we're super excited for what you guys are going to be doing this year. Can't wait for training camp. Make sure you guys go out to training camp in Ashburn, right?
Yeah.
Watch these boys, support them out there.
We got the bleachers waiting for you in Ashburn. We got free waters waiting on you for Ashburn. You get in free when you get to Ashburn. So ain't no excuses. All them excuses you had over the year, they gone.
All right, give these boys a round of applause. They're busy, man. Get out of here. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it.
All right, so that was Terry McLaurin and John Allen addressing fans at the pep rally on Friday after the new ownership group's introductory press conference. Also dropping over the weekend, a statement from Dan and Tanya Snyder, the former owners of the Washington Commanders, who said, quote, "We congratulate the Harris ownership group on yesterday's unanimous league approval of their purchase of the Washington Commanders. We are proud to have built the most diverse leadership group of any NFL team, including having the highest representation of women, underrepresented groups, and the first full-time Black female coach in league history. We are immensely grateful to the best fans in football, the Commanders faithful, for the passion and unwavering support they have shown for this team and those who represented it on and off the field. From the players who battled every week for that extra inch to those who worked behind the scenes to enhance every facet of the organization, we thank you for your hard work, dedication, and commitment to our team, fans, pursuit of excellence, and most importantly, to each other. Being stewards of this historic organization for the last quarter century has been the privilege of a lifetime. When we purchased the team nearly 25 years ago, Dan was quoted as saying, quote, "I'm a fan, a huge fan. It's that simple," end quote. That is as true today as it was then. During our next chapter, we are looking forward to spending time with family and devoting our energy to the causes that matter very much to us, including furthering our longstanding support of breast cancer research. End quote. And speaking of the players that are on the field doing things for the Washington Commanders, speaking of Terry McLaurin, Jonathan Allen, their teammates, the secondary. That is our final position group preview that we have to do before training camp gets started again for us Wednesday. I will be out in Ashburn Tuesday. We've got a press conference with Ron Rivera and a pre-camp walkthrough, which is a first for me for Washington. So I don't even know what that really entails, but I'm looking forward to it regardless and looking forward to talking to Coach. So subtexters, if you've got questions for Coach Rivera that you want me to ask, shoot them to me over on Subtext. Again, if you want to join in on that, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders, and you can text me as well. And I will see how many of those that I can get asked and answered for you on Tuesday. And then Wednesday is our first practice out at Ashburn, 9 o'clock in the morning. We will be out there ready for practice. No pads, but ready for practice nonetheless. Let's talk about the secondary. So pre-training camp, coming into training camp, who are the starters that we expect? Well, that's going to be kind of a hard question to answer, right? So starting cornerbacks, I think Kendall Fuller is pretty well solidified in there. But then you've got Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes. They've both taken first-team reps in OTAs. Obviously, rookie minicamp, Benjamin St-Juste wasn't there. But OTAs minicamp, I saw Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes both get first-team reps. I expect that to continue at least for the first part of training camp. So really right now, the starting corners are Kendall Fuller and Benjamin St-Juste / Emmanuel Forbes right now. Then you go to the nickel. You go to your slot cornerback, and I've got Benjamin St-Juste / Quan Martin and really / Danny Johnson. I've seen Danny Johnson get first-team reps in there as well. So a lot of cornerback situation to figure out still in training camp. Safeties, Cameron Curl and Derek Forrest. Of course, Percy Butler was getting first-team reps while Cam Curl sat out the team portion of OTAs and mini camp. So some camp battles and storylines to watch here for the secondary group. Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, Quan Martin usage. That is going to be, honestly, the biggest sticking point for what we're looking for during training camp. I will be doing episodes on that. I'll be doing write-ups on that. That is going to be something that we are paying a lot of attention to here in the coming month. So that's something obviously we're going to be looking for. Cam Curl's participation. You know, if you're taking a page out of the Daron Payne 2022 handbook, Daron Payne showed up to OTA, showed up to minicamp, and he participated in individual drills, position group drills. But when it came to team drills, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, he did not participate in that. Stood on the sideline, supported his teammates, got the mental reps, but he did not get the physical reps. We saw Cam Curl do the same. Both players were playing on expiring contracts. Both players wanted new deals. So we think that essentially it's the same situation. So Cam Curl, if he follows the Daron Payne trend, well, in training camp, there's not going to be any issues. Once training camp came around, Daron Payne, not that there were issues before, right? But Daron Payne participated in individual drills, group drills, and then he participated in the team drills as well, getting ready for the season, ended up having a career year and got himself a new deal. So if Cam Curl is going to follow the Daron Payne handbook, we expect him to be a full participant as his health allows him to be. Knock on wood that it doesn't limit him at all during training camp. And then, of course, talking about the rookie contracts. This isn't really a training camp storyline, but this is something that I want to follow up from our mailbag last week. Was asked about the Emmanuel Forbes, Quan Martin contracts. They hadn't been signed yet and whether or not we should be concerned. I mentioned there in the episode that most likely what this was that the players, the contracts, or the agents, the team had agreed to, and that I'm talking about the team, Ron Rivera, Martin Mayhew, had agreed to pay out their bonuses within 15, 30 days, what have you, of having their contract signed. And again, Dan Snyder not wanting to foot the bill for those rookie bonuses for a team that he's not going to own anymore. So they had to wait until Josh Harris was officially in ownership of the team. And you saw those deals get done while we're at FedEx Field. The reports coming out that those contracts were signed. So I feel confident that that was the reason. Maybe I'll ask him about it. Maybe I won't ask him about it. I don't really like to get in these guys' pockets too much, but we might ask them, just say, talk about it. I mean, look, their bonuses and their salaries are public knowledge. So I guess it's not really getting into their pockets too much, but might ask them about it on Wednesday if we get the opportunity. So speaking of questions that we might ask people, burning question for the secondary group, who starts opposite Kendall Fuller and in the slot? Again, that cornerback trio, Emmanuel Forbes, almost said Emmanuel Fuller, Emmanuel Forbes, Quan Martin, and of course the more veteran, Benjamin St-Juste. That is going to be the burning question for this secondary. Like, if healthy, Cam Curl, Derek Forrest, their spots are good. They're locked in. They're not going anywhere. If healthy, Kendall Fuller clearly looks like he's the guy outside, the number one guy outside. So really, it's just a matter of how are we going to mix in these other three cornerbacks. And really, I kind of look at this as the wide receiver and running back group situation on offense, where the matchup is going to dictate the usage, unless there is one or two guys that just are clearly head and shoulders above the others. Like if Emmanuel Forbes comes out and just looks like a Hall of Famer right off the bat, then okay, he's going to get the job. Or if Benjamin St-Juste comes out and says, look, that guy's obviously a rookie, let him grow, I'll run the point, then he'll get the job. But you look at last season, Terry McLaurin himself, the legend in the making, 15 plus snaps in the slot in weeks 7, 8, and 9, but only single-digit snaps in the slot every game from week 10 to 13. So again, matchup dictating where he's lining up, when he's getting on the field, who's getting on the field against. Brian Robinson Jr. last year had 25 plus snaps 6 times in 9 weeks after coming back from his injury. Antonio Gibson had 25 plus snaps 7 times in that exact same stretch. So again, depending on who had the better matchup, who was playing better, who was running better, that's who got on the field. I really kind of look at this trio of cornerbacks and say that's really what it's going to be based on. If we're playing a really big athletic type slot receiver, then you might see Benjamin St-Juste in the slot, more Emmanuel Forbes playing outside. If we're playing a more shifty type of guy, then you might see Quan Martin out there again, unless somebody separates themselves during training camp. So you can't help but wonder if Kendall Fuller has a slow start. He did have a little bit of a slow start, got beat up against Philadelphia Eagles last year. Will that impact how the play happens? That's not something we're going to answer during training camp, but it's something that I know I'm going to be looking out for during the course of the season. Facts and stats and rankings for the secondary group coming up as we wrap up this final position group preview on Locked On Commanders. All right, maybe over some interesting facts and stats from 2022 with the secondary group. Last year, secondary held opposing teams to fewer than 200 net passing yards 11 times in the 2022 NFL season. A very, very high number of efficiency for the secondary group. Benjamin St-Juste, we've already talked about him a little bit, but just want to emphasize, showed value last year by starting the year in the slot, especially training camp, moving back outside to help replace William Jackson III. And then when he was lost to injury, we really kind of saw the lack of depth in the Washington Commanders secondary, which is what I think helped inspire the 2 draft picks spent on those positions. Cam Curl last year maximized his versatility by playing 100 plus snaps last season inside the box, in the slot, and in coverage as a free safety. Each of those positions, he played at least 100 snaps last year, and in the process earned the best graded season of his career, on PFF, 82.9, and was the second highest graded safety in the NFL among those that played 300 or more snaps, according to PFF. And then finally, are either Cam Curl or Derek Forrest right for your fantasy individual defensive player slot? Not every league has them. My league has them, but not all of them do. If you do have them, then the number one safety in individual defensive performance or player rankings, according to Fantasy Pros, is Derwin James, and he is IDP number 10. So the best ranked safety is the 10th best individual defensive player. Cam Curl is safety number 14, according to Fantasy Pros, IDP 54, which basically means unless you're in a 54-team league, probably not drafting Cam. Derek Forrest is safety 28, IDP 107. So again, unless you're taking a really wicked flyer, or you're in a super, super killer league, you're not going to want to take these guys in fantasy. The number one cornerback in IDP is CJ Gardner-Johnson, and he is IDP 49. So, even the best corner, honestly, you're not going to want to take for your IDP player. No Washington corners ranked in the top 166 of IDPs, according to Fantasy Pros. But if we look at Pro Football Focus's NFL player rankings, not fantasy, actual game rankings, Cam Curl is the 20th ranked safety, according to PFF, with them saying, quote, a breakout star at the position. Curl doesn't stuff the traditional stat sheet, but consistency is the name of his game. He missed only 4 tackles on the season and posted just 2 game grades below 60. Washington found a gem in Curl in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL draft, and he's become an important cog in a very good coverage unit. End quote. CBS Sports ranked the top 10 safeties. Cam Curl, not one of them, but he was an unranked honorable mention on the list. And of course, if he has another really great season this year, like he did last year, could certainly see him making the top 10 lists of PFF and of CBS Sports moving forward in his career. Moving forward in the week coming up tomorrow. Again, we've got another mailbag episode. So if you want to get in a question for that mailbag pre-training camp, drop it in the YouTube comments, email them to lockedoncommanders@gmail.com. Hit me on Twitter at dharrison82 or text me directly via Subtext. As always, I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or view of the day every day and every dayers. Greatly appreciate you coming through on a consistent basis like you do, especially during this dead period. Guys, dead period's over. We are done with the dead period because we got a mailbag tomorrow. That's not dead period stuff. That's stuff you Commanders fans want to know. That's not dead period. And then Wednesday, I am out at Ashburn at training camp. Again, Wednesday's episode will drop Wednesday after practice. I will be, as soon as practice is done, we'll talk to the players on the field. We'll do our podiums. As soon as all that is done, I'm going to hit one of the rooms in Ashburn, set up all my recording equipment, and I'm going to record an episode for you, edit it, put it up right away before I ever leave Ashburn. So while you're watching it premiering, I will be driving home from Ashburn. So by all means, text me, let me know what you think of the episode as you do. And that's how we're going to do it all throughout training camp. So Thursday practice, same thing. Friday practice, same thing. So we'll be doing it that way. So a little bit of a shift in the publishing schedule, right, because of it. But we will get it, and you'll get the freshest. So every episode you see from me, that will be from that day's practice, the freshest input you can get as well. We'll be tracking camp battles, be doing all that stuff. And again, and subtexters, remember, just like OTA's mini camps, I'll be texting you guys live during the practices, all that stuff, and letting you know what's happening in real time. And then, of course, you can catch the episode. So if you want to get in on that fun as well, join subtext.com/lockedoncommanders. It's about to get going. Things are about to get busy. And I want to thank you so much for making me a part of your day, part of your football routine. If you've got anything else you want to discuss with me, hit me up on Twitter at dharrison82. Until we speak again, please be safe, be kind, and I'll see you next time right here for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.